What's up, Inside Gaming faithful? It's your boy, Evan Campbell at Darth Burrito, and today we're talking about the most anticipated next-gen titles. More specifically, our most anticipated next-gen games, but I do have to start by getting this out of the way and giving a shout out to the game at the top of most people's lists.
Cyberpunk 2077.
We're putting it aside for now because even though I'm very excited about
Cyberpunk 2077.
this would be a pretty boring video if we just kept hyping up the same game that everyone is already excited for.
Cyberpunk.
So let's get into some more flavorful picks, shall we? Of course, I asked everybody here at Inside Gaming what their most anticipated game is, and obviously we all have spectacular taste, so let's get into it.
Cyberpunk.
Yeah, okay, so Brian had to go and ruin my whole Cyberpunk 2077 shtick by actually putting that game on the top of his list, which is totally cool, because now that we got everyone else's picks out of the way, we can spend the rest of this video talking about my most anticipated next-gen titles. All right, first up is a game I'm really excited to see more of, and I don't see a lot of people talking about it, The Ascent. And yes, the irony of my first pick being a Cyberpunk-themed game isn't lost on me. I know, just The Ascent was first revealed at Xbox's first next-gen showcase just before summer started, and even though it's not seemingly destroying any of our current gen benchmarks, visually or graphically, I don't really care. This game looks fun as hell to play, and it has a rad style. In short, The Ascent is a multiplayer action RPG set in an off-world dystopian cyberpunk future, and in a lot of ways that's kind of already enough for me. But I think my anticipation mostly comes from having a love of games like Smash TV and even Gauntlet growing up. I know this is quite a bit different from those old arcade days, but honestly, I was surprised to see a game with a top-down perspective in a next-gen showcase. Short of having a million things on screen happening at once, that perspective is never really going to be the best way to sell people on a new $500 plus console. But then I think about how absurdly good something like Geometry Wars is, and then I think if someone could possibly make a game that plays similar to something like Geometry Wars, but has all the trappings of an RPG progression system, varied weapon mechanics, or narrative set pieces, then that game could be something really special. Now, that might be a pretty tall order for a game that we don't actually know that much about, like The Ascent, or a game that doesn't look like it plays at all like Geometry Wars, but even if The Ascent just turns out to be Cyberpunk Diablo, I'm totally okay with that. For a quick bit of background, the developer for The Ascent is a UK-based team called Neon Giant. The studio is made up of ex-Bulletstorm developers who broke off from People Can Fly and Epic to start their own team. They also have Tor Frick on the team, who is a highly regarded 3D artist in the industry, who's worked on AAA games like Wolfenstein 2, The New Colossus, and Fallout 4. Let me also caveat this pick by saying The Ascent is going to be a cross-gen game coming to PC and Xbox One with smart delivery support, so take that as you will in terms of being a qualified pick for an anticipated next-gen game. But if you look on the Microsoft Store page, you'll see there's a stamp that says the game will be optimized for Series X. And the release date is still set for just like a generic date of 2020, which makes me feel like the date will be revealed as soon as the Series X launch date is revealed. So for me, I kind of counting this as a next-gen game. I get it if you don't, but this is my list, so get out of here. Okay, my next pick, my runner-up for most anticipated next-gen game has to be Deathloop. We got the first glimpse of this game during the Bethesda showcase at E3 in 2019, and it's been in the back of my mind ever since. The official trailers Bethesda has released for Deathloop are remarkably good and set up the tone of the world and style of the game really well. You play as Colt, who is a prisoner on an island paradise owned by wealthy elites who force Colt to relive the same day over and over again while they hunt him. And the main objective of the game is to break the time loop by assassinating 8 specific high-profile targets on the island. However, there's a catch. The game's primary antagonist is an assassin named Juliana, who's tasked with preventing you from breaking the loop. That's not the actual catch. The real catch is actually that Juliana can be controlled by other players who can invade your campaign. All the details aren't out yet about how the system works, but it seems pretty cool considering the island is framed a little bit as an open world, and you can decide which order to approach any of the 8 targets. You can play offline and Juliana will be controlled by a computer AI, but the devs are currently suggesting you play with a mixture of the AI controlled antagonists and real life players to keep things kind of mixed up and random, so you never really know where Juliana's going to be, when she's going to sneak up on you, or when you're going to have to act quickly as you're trying to take down these 8 targets. It does seem like a hard balance to draw to keep things fun while letting a veritable who's who of villainous griefers into your campaign experience, but I think Arcane is a developer that has proven themselves time and time again, so it's exciting to see them take a crack at something new while also continuing to include and improve on some of the mechanics and things that have made their games fun in the past. If you need a bit of a reminder, of course, Arcane Studios is the developer behind Dishonored, Dishonored 2, Prey, and of course the incredibly well-received DLC releases like Death of the Outsider and Prey Mooncrash. So it's safe to say they have plenty of experience with stealth action, fun combat mechanics, and creative ways to integrate those two things into a unique and new interesting gaming experience. The affecting musical style used in the trailers, crossed with the filmic cult classic look, combined with the pedigree of Arcane, has made anticipating Deathloop a lot of fun, and I can't wait to play it. Deathloop is a PS5 and PC exclusive, and it's slated to release, of course, December 2020, which is a placeholder until these gosh darn consoles get launch dates and prices. You know, who knows when that's gonna be. Okay, get ready for it. Here it is. My number one anticipated next-gen title is Ratchet & Clank Rift Apart. And I know what you're thinking, how could you do Miles Morales like this? And believe me, I'm asking myself, self, how could you do Miles Morales like this? Well, self, I have two answers for you. One, I'm a little scared after the announcement mix-up with the new Spider-Man game. There was some early confusion and an early thought that the new Miles Morales game was not going to be a full game at all, and there was comparisons thrown out that would be more like a hefty DLC, and that kind of scares me a little bit. I know we've since learned it's going to be more like an Uncharted Lost Legacy situation, but still, I'm a little worried that Spider-Man Miles Morales might not be as good as it deserves to be, and that's gonna break my heart. Miles Morales is a fantastic character and he deserves all the love he could possibly get, and I think he'll be in good hands with Insomniac, but you know, given COVID and the timing and everything, it's got me a little bit nervous. However, more than my personal hangups, I think that Ratchet & Clank has just always been kind of cool. I know they've had their ups and downs over the years and that they are kind of lone survivors among a graveyard of 3D platforming has-beens, but hear me out. Right now, my feeling is that Rift Apart is the most next-gen looking game we have seen this summer. Sure, some upcoming games look better than they ever have, but when Ratchet & Clank pull themselves through different rifts in those trailers, I am stunned. I haven't seen anything like that in a game before. I mean, sure, we have games where characters warp between worlds or change their environments drastically in the blink of an eye, but not like this, and certainly not this rapidly. The extended Rift Apart trailer shown at Gamescom is a really cool showcase for what next-gen games can do, and a good example of how all the talk about faster processing and zero load times actually gets put into use. There's no other trailer I've seen this summer that really just demonstrates that immediately in that way. In general, Ratchet games in the past, for the most part, have been pretty well built. They always offer at least a new take on a weapon you haven't seen before, and a few good laughs. It gives me confidence to see PlayStation is ushering in their new generation with Ratchet & Clank because it's a known quantity that allows them to focus on iterating on the new stuff, as well as what's already fun about Ratchet & Clank games, which is primarily the combat, upgrading your weapons to do cool, new, and unique things, and a fun Pixar-like quality to kind of the characters in the world. Sure, I'll take the lovable Lombax to task for that outdated radial weapons menu, but chaining together weapon types in Ratchet games has always been pretty fun, and those games have been implementing a quick swap mechanic for a few games now. Also, returning characters to the narrative like Dr. Nefarious and Captain Quark are gonna make a lot of any of the small gripes I might have pretty worthwhile. I love those characters. I think they're really fun. Also, just look at this part where this dinosaur falls through this bridge. It's incredible. I love it.
Was that supposed to happen?
Anyways, I just think the game looks cool, and the new Rift mechanic has a lot of promise, especially coming from Insomniac that's already learned some pretty serious lessons from making Sunset Overdrive and obviously Marvel's Spider-Man. There just isn't a game that's made me take pause the way I did when I saw Ratchet flying through multiple rifts for the first time. I know people are excited about the new Lombax. Also, is this a Jak 2 reference?
Where are we?
Beats me.
I'm pretty sure this is a Jak 2 reference. I might have mentioned this in another video before, but yeah. I'm not sure if Rift Apart is being made by Insomniac's headquarters in Burbank or by the North Carolina studio that worked on All for One, but it's comforting knowing either way the studio has direct access to some of the original creators of the franchise, and I'm excited to see this new Ratchet game put the PS5 through its initial paces during its launch window sometime in 2020, which I'm sure we'll know soon enough. All right, that's going to do it for me today. Thanks for watching, and be sure to leave a comment below about your most anticipated next-gen title. I know there's a lot of games I didn't talk about today, and I'm just generally excited about video games, so I'm super interested to see what all of your top picks are. Thanks again for watching, and we'll see you on the next one. For this week's feature, I wanted to talk about why Fall Guys became such a phenomenon so quickly. And to do that today, we have a really, really awesome guest. We've got Joe Walsh, lead designer on Fall Guys. How's it going, Joe?
Hey, yeah, it's going well. Just kind of like keeping track of everything at the moment. It's all continuing to blow up, and this weekend is